This course is YS-135, Baūls, Fakirs, and Yoga. And first, a little bit about me. I am Dr. Keith Edward Cantú. I am a research affiliate and previous lecturer. It looks like I'll be lecturing again at Harvard University this next fall at the Center for the Study of World Religions, Harvard Divinity School. And I've spent the past 15 years just about singing, studying, immersing myself in Baul and Fakiri tradition, movements, performative contexts, and so on. And it's such a privilege to be able to share this course with you all. I also co-edited a book of songs of Lalon Fakir called City of Mirrors, Songs of Lalon Shai, with Simon Zakaria, a colleague from the Bangla Academy in Dhaka. And these were translations by Carol Solomon, who also spent a lot of time collecting these Baul songs, and will talk a lot and engage her work and other scholars, both present and past, who are working in the field of Baul studies and, really trying to connect the dots between these musical worlds and yoga. So, you might have heard a little bit about the Baūls, or you might have heard the word fakir, somewhere along the way and kind of been sort of confused, or maybe you have some experience or past knowledge of traveling and encountering these practitioners in India, Bangladesh, or elsewhere around the world. And here, just as kind of a general outline here, Baul refers to a kind of bard, often itinerant, not necessarily so. Sometimes Bauls reside at what are called ashrams or akras, right? Similar to the akras that are mentioned in the context of hatha yoga or martial arts. Bauls also have akras. And the word is sort of, of an unknown etymology, but scholars have, looked at the connection with Vayu, the wind, and also what seems probable as well is this connection with Bajul or Bajil, one who has Vajra back from the Charyapadas, but again, we don't really know for sure. Fakir comes from an Arabic and then later integrated into Persian word meaning poor, but here it's a spiritual mystical aspirant that overlaps with Baul, and there's this kind of idea, poor in the world, rich in Allah, but we'll also see how Bauls and Fakirs like Lalon really reinterpreted this word to mean a path of bliss, of joy, of love, and not really necessarily something that is poor or impoverished. But we'll talk a little more about that as well. Siddhi, accomplishment, attainment, special power. This is used all the time in these Baul songs, along with sadhana. You might have heard in yoga contexts, yoga sadhana, the conference, yoga darshana. Practice, striving for a goal or on a path. It's used all the time in Baul contexts. Sadhus are also used with the Bengali pronunciation shadhu, a practitioner among Bauls, an adept or advanced fakir. And then you have dervish, an exceptionally spiritually advanced fakir. And all of these sort of categories have other meanings as well. They interpenetrate with one another. This is just to kind of give you an idea of where I'm coming from with this course. And I'm really building off of a recent chapter as well that was published in the Ethnography of Tantra volume, edited by Carol Laloria, another really amazing scholar of Baul and other related traditions, and Rohit Singh, who's done work in Ladakh. And the chapter that I contributed for this volume was called Songs for Siddhi, an ethnographic analysis of Baul Fakiri sadhana. And I think that it really challenges a lot of the emic and Edic boundaries that are usually found in fields like religious studies or Indology or so on. And we'll talk about that as well. Now, a major aspect of this course as well is dealing with music, right? Music is such an integral part of Baul and Fakiri traditions. I showed you this image of an or instrument, the ektara, which has one string. There are many, many others, right? And there are many names for sometimes the same instrument. Like ektara can also be called gopichontro. And interestingly enough, these, instruments are jontro, which comes from Sanskrit yantra, already sort of putting us in the realm of, okay, an instrument for what purpose, right? There is a kind of tantric context for this. And music is an important bridge for understanding the songs and understanding what we could call the yoga of Baul and Fakiri traditions. And so just kind of a brief, outline of the modules here. Module 1 is manifesting sound, Shabda Prakash, music of Bengali yoga worlds. Here we'll give an overview in depth of all of the sort of, different worlds that interpenetrate and, come together in this kind of universe of Baul songs and Fakiri songs. Then the second module will shift to focus really on the yogic inheritance of Baul songs, specifically from the Sanskritic and Indic perspective proper. And, talking about in terms of pure practice, right? Shuddha Sadhan in Bangla, and how this becomes sort of an important way of approaching practice and yoga and the threads that sort of lead into that. Then in the third module, we'll talk about the Sufi confluence, how Fakirs and this idea of Nur Muhammad, or the Prophet of Light, Prophet Muhammad, becomes sort of reinterpreted in a Baul cosmogonic frame. And, from that point onward, really, there's no way to kind of separate out fully Hindu and Muslim ideas in these songs. And then in the fourth module, we'll talk about uniting with the person of the heart, the Moner Manush, one of the most well-known and celebrated ideas in Baul and Fakiri songs and movements. And in this module, we'll talk about the role of love and gender and all of these kinds of threads that come together from these previous modules that we've talked about, especially 2 and 3, into this kind of synthesis of a project and a practice that is founded upon love. So just to kind of give you an example, a sneak preview of the kinds of things that we'll do in this class, we'll look at songs like this, one of the first that I ever encountered in a recording, actually, in Dhaka. Amon manob zono marki hobe, monja koro torai koro e bhobe. Will such a human birth again occur? O my heart, whatever you do, do it quickly in this world. And you can see from the translation, there's one way in which it can strike you as the listener. But there's also another way of looking at these songs, which is through the terminology used. And many of you who have taken previous yogic studies classes or other sort of, background knowledge in Sanskrit, that you might have, you'll recognize these terms and they'll speak to you differently. They'll speak to you actually at a more advanced level, the more background and foundational knowledge of yoga, tantra, Sufism that you will be aware of. And so throughout this class, we'll also emphasize the terminology while still making it accessible, for the beginner. Let's say this is the first class you've ever taken related to yoga, then we'll make it accessible too. And that's really the beauty of these songs, is that they're able to communicate and be expressive on multiple levels. And so I'm really excited to be able to teach this class. It's a privilege to be able to express what I know, not everything. It's a universe unto itself about these Baul and Fakiri traditions, but at the very least, I think this would give you a solid foundation to be able to take what you know here, and let's say you travel, to India or Bangladesh, then you already will have a solid foundation in terms of how to integrate and really internalize some of this knowledge in your own practice and the relationships with people, on the ground and, in your home countries, wherever that might be. So thank you so much.